All right, so today we're diving deep into Anatomy of a Scandal.
Ooh, this one's a good one.
It is. It's based on a review from Bukapi, and
Okay.
it's a legal thriller.
Love those.
Yeah, and it's all about this high-profile rape accusation against this politician.
Oh, so like a he said, she said kind of thing?
Exactly, and that's kind of what we're going to be unpacking today.
Sounds juicy. Let's get into it.
So the story is centered around James. He's like this junior minister, picture perfect life, wife, family, career.
Yeah.
But then, boom, his secretary accuses him of rape.
Wow.
And the review really focuses on his wife, Sophie.
Oh, interesting.
Like, how does she deal with this? Her husband's this seemingly perfect guy, and now this.
But like, does she believe him, or is there that doubt?
Right. And it makes you think, how much do we ignore or rationalize when it comes to people we love?
That's a good question. Tough one, too.
And then there's Kate. She's the barrister prosecuting the case.
Okay.
And she's described as like super dedicated, driven.
I feel like there's always a reason for that kind of dedication.
Yeah, and the review hints at some mysterious past for her, something that fuels her pursuit of justice.
Ooh, so there's like a personal connection, maybe?
Maybe. We'll have to see.
I like where this is going.
Now, before we get into the actual events, got to set the scene.
Okay.
James and his accuser, they were having an affair.
Ah, so it's not just a random encounter?
Nope. Adds a whole other level of complexity, right?
For sure, especially when you think about power dynamics.
Exactly. He's a powerful politician. She's his subordinate.
Can't ignore that.
Absolutely not.
So what happened? Like, what went down?
So the review says it all takes place in a lift.
Okay.
And here's the thing. It starts consensually, but then something changes, and the whole definition of consent gets blurry.
Whoa, that's tricky.
It is, and that's what the book seems to be exploring. Like, how do you define consent, especially in an existing relationship?
Yeah, where are the lines?
And when does it cross over into something non-consensual?
It's not black and white.
No, it's not. And I think this is where the legal system struggles too. Can they really handle this?
I guess we'll see as we go.
We will, because the review goes into a lot of detail about the actual trial, the evidence presented.
Okay, I'm ready to hear about this trial.
Okay.
Yeah, so like what kind of evidence are we talking about here?
Well, the review mentions, they were having an affair.
Right.
And there's this idea that they had engaged in some risky behavior before.
Oh, okay.
And that the encounter, like in the lift, it started consensually.
I mean, that's a lot to consider, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like from a legal perspective, how do you even begin to prove or disprove consent when it's like he said, she said?
When it starts out consensual,
Yeah, exactly. That's the tricky part.
It really is.
But also, I keep thinking about the power dynamics.
Right. It's huge.
I mean, he's this politician.
Used to get in his way, probably.
Yeah, and she's like his subordinate.
It just adds another layer to everything.
Totally. Like, even if they were having an affair, that doesn't automatically mean she was always consenting.
No, not at all.
It could have been withdrawn or, things could have changed during the encounter.
And that's what makes this so complex, right?
For sure. It's not just about what happened, but also how those actions are perceived.
By everyone involved. And, the public, too.
Exactly. It all comes down to who we believe and why.
And the review even says that based on the evidence presented, the jury would have likely acquitted James.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? Because it kind of shows the limits of the legal system in these cases.
Yeah, like acquittal doesn't necessarily equal innocence.
No, it just means they couldn't prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
Which, in a case like this, with all the ambiguity and conflicting stories, that must be really hard.
Super hard. And it makes you wonder, what about Sophie? Where does she land with all of this?
Well, good point. The review doesn't really say.
It doesn't, and I think that's interesting. The author leaves it open.
So we're left to kind of wonder, does she believe him?
Or does she accept that maybe, just maybe, he did do it?
Yeah, I mean, even the reviewer themselves says they're not sure what actually happened.
And they even say they wish the book explored consent more deeply.
Which makes me think, this book, it's doing what it set out to do,
Get people talking, get them thinking about these difficult questions.
Absolutely. And not just about the legal stuff, but the human cost.
Yeah, the emotional fallout for everyone.
For James, for his accuser, for Sophie.
She's really stuck in the middle of it all.
Yeah, it's like betrayal on multiple levels.
So even though there's a legal verdict, it feels like the story isn't really over.
No, the moral and emotional questions, those stick around.
And that's why I think these deep dives are so important.
Totally. We're not just, like, giving a summary.
Yeah, we're digging deeper, unpacking all the layers.
The nuances, the bigger picture, it's all connected.
We're really trying to understand these questions the book brings up.
About consent, power, about how we seek justice in a system that doesn't always understand human relationships.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is, but it's important.
And it's not just a legal drama or a thriller.
No, it's a story about real people, about how these accusations impact everyone.
And the reviewers even points out that the ending, like the legal outcome, it might be predictable.
But that's not the point.
Right. The point is the moral dilemma, the questions it raises.
It's about that journey, challenging our own beliefs.
Yeah, it's like putting yourself in each character's shoes, trying to understand them.
And ultimately facing our own sense of what's right and wrong.
So for anyone listening who loves a good legal thriller, but also wants a book that makes you think,
this one seems like a winner.
Anatomy of a Scandal.
Definitely check it out. You won't regret it.
It'll spark some interesting conversations, maybe even change how you view these situations.
It's like we were on the jury ourselves, weighing the evidence.
Grappling with those gray areas, facing our own biases.
That's why this deep dive's been so great.
We didn't just talk about the plot. We explored the ethics, the psychology of it all.
The big picture stuff.
And now, we want to leave you with a final thought.
I like this part.
If you were on that jury, knowing what you know now, what would your verdict be?
Would you convict James?
And what would influence your decision?
It's a question that goes beyond just the law.
It's about human behavior, about consent.
About finding that balance between justice and truth.
So go read Anatomy of a Scandal. Dive into these issues yourself.
It's a deep dive that'll stay with you.
Long after you finish the book.
And it's not just about the legal stuff. Like, there's this emotional impact on everyone involved.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not just James and his accuser.
Right, like Sophie, his wife, she's right in the thick of it.
The reviewer actually points out that the ending, in terms of like the legal outcome, it's kind of predictable.
Okay.
But that's not really the point, you know?
No, I get it. It's about the bigger picture.
It's the journey, the moral dilemmas.
Challenging those beliefs we hold.
Putting yourself in their shoes.
Yeah, and then, like, confronting our own sense of justice. Like, what do we believe?
If you love legal thrillers, but also love a book that really makes you think.
Anatomy of a Scandal is for you.
It's a good one. Definitely sparks some conversations.
Maybe even change how you see these situations, you know?
It's like we were on the jury ourselves, deciding the case.
Weighing all that evidence, dealing with those gray areas.
And ultimately facing our own biases.
That's why these deep dives are so cool.
We go beyond just the plot. We get into the ethics, the psychology.
Connecting it all.
All those big questions the book brings up.
Yeah, about consent, power, justice.
It's a lot to unpack.
But worth it.
So we want to leave you with one final thought.
Hit me.
If you were on that jury, right?
Okay, I'm on the jury.
Knowing everything we've talked about.
Got it.
What would you decide? Guilty or not guilty?
Whoa, that's a tough one.
And what would influence your choice? What factors would you consider?
I mean, it goes way beyond just the legal definitions, right?
Absolutely. It's about human behavior, understanding those complexities of consent.
That balance between justice and truth.
So go read Anatomy of a Scandal.
Yeah, explore this yourself.
Do your own deep dive. It'll stick with you, I promise.
Long after you've closed the book.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.